Guys, you made it. This is the last recording for the survival series Thoughtloads. I'm Nico, and today we're going to be talking about equipment, clothing, and shelter. Now, all of this is just general knowledge that's good to have if you're going backpacking, and some of the information can help you if you need to create shelter for a survival situation or get dry. So let's get into it. Now, the first bit, again, is equipment. Now, for me, there's a lot of standard things that I usually take backpacking with me. But let's say for some reason a bear took your backpack into its nest, you don't know where it is, and you're only left with a few random items that you can do stuff with. I hope the bear would leave a pot and a fairly large knife, or maybe even a hatchet if it's sharp enough. Now, here's the reason why. With that equipment, you can do damn near anything that you need to make shelter, to make tools, to cut meats, to fix things. Like the list goes on with those couple things. You can use the bottom of a hot pot to sear or flatten something out, to mash something. It could be a hammer. Your knife can help cut down tree limbs and cut up any fish or game that you trap or kill. So even though you'll probably have a lot more equipment than just a pot and a knife, that's really the basic stuff that you need. Now, if you are backpacking and planning a trip, obviously you'd want to take everything you need for your tent, a sleeping pad, something that's light but also gives you the support that you need, the correct clothing, which we'll go over in detail a little bit later, correct clothing for the weather that you're getting into, and kind of accounting for different variables as well. So, but at the bare minimum, a knife and a pot is something critical to have in a survival or a backpacking situation. Now, you may have a little stove that you carry with you or different stuff like that, but all of those little things make the backpacking experience easier, but they don't necessarily help you survive. So with the pot and the knife, you can build a fire, put the pot on top of the fire, or you can make like a small rock ring, have a fire in there, use the pot for that. And let's assume that you've done everything well. You have all of this random equipment you may need: knives, pots, stoves, sleeping stuff, maybe a multi-tool, whatever it may be. Now let's talk about clothing. The most important thing about backpacking clothing or survival clothing is that it is not cotton. And preferably, you'd want a piece of clothing that is a quick dry or has some type of technology, like no underwear. Some underwear nowadays is antimicrobial, quick dry stuff. That's what you want for base layers. Whether it's hot or it's cold outside, you want a base layer, any layer that's touching your skin, to be able to wick moisture away from your body. Now, if it's colder, you may want to have more layers on top of that, eventually going from that base layer to some type of fleece or anything above that, and then maybe a jacket on the outside that can protect that fleece or warmer layer from any rain or moisture that's coming in. But the most important thing, again, regardless if it's socks, pants, shirt, whatever, do not use cotton. For some people, they like to use a base layer of socks, just a liner, and then put on a thicker wool sock outside of that. And it's the same concept, getting moisture away from the body. But all of the clothing that you're going to use needs to be easily packed into your backpack or compression sack, but also give you the protection that you need, either from the cold or from the heat. So be careful when you're choosing clothing, but just check the tag, and if it's cotton, I would not bring that. You're going to need some stuff that can dry out, because even if it's going to be dry, you might sweat. And if it gets cold at night and you have wet clothes, you're going to have a bad time. Now, let's get into shelter. So again, for most backpacking trips, you're probably going to have a tent with you. Now, if for some reason you have a tree fall on your tent while you were out hiking during the day and you have to make shelter because you see a storm's coming in, here are the key elements to think of and the different types of structures you can use. So there's two key elements to think of whenever you're building or need to build a shelter. One is to get your sleeping pad, sleeping bag, whatever it is, off the ground. Now, unless you're on rocks or something, if you're on the ground, you're just inviting moisture into whatever it is you're putting on the ground. So if you have a sleeping bag, it's going to get wet. If you have anything that needs to be dry and you put it on the ground, it's going to get wet, especially over long periods of time. So the first thing is keep that type of stuff, off the ground. And the second thing is to make sure that you have a way for water to get off of the top of the structure. Now, thinking about those two things, there's a couple different types of structures that you can use. One is a lean-to, so where you picture fairly large branches, somewhere between 1.5 inches to 3 inches in diameter, and you kind of lay them up against either a rock wall or another tree. You can set up the opposite side of a lean-to to just, be something vertical. You lean up all those branches on, and that gives you a little pocket where water can run off and you can sleep under. And for that, after you put those 1 to 3 inch branches down, you'd probably put something over that, like an evergreen leaf, like pine needles or some type of leaf or grass material that helps absorb and roll the water down. And it's not going to be perfect. You're probably, especially for something quick, you're probably going to have water seeping in, but the idea is to keep you as dry as possible. And then other than a lean-to, you can have kind of an A-frame setup where you take two branches, again, 1 to 3 inches in diameter, but one of the ends spreads out into a Y. If you put those vertically in the ground, put another stick in between them, now you can lean other branches up against that on either side, and it gives you a little bit more room than you would otherwise have in a lean-to. But both of those are going to give you sloped ceilings, if you will, or sloped roof pitches, and that's going to help get the water away from you for your shelter. So really, I hope none of you find yourself in a survival situation. But if you know about the things in these survival series audios, you'll hopefully be a little bit more prepared when that time comes, or if that time comes. Making sure you have the right types of food, you're able to get the right types of food, knowing how to hydrate yourself with water purification techniques, and definitely knowing how to build a fire, but also how to give yourself some shelter when you need. Hopefully you guys find these helpful. Stay tuned for another Thought Load next week. Look forward to hearing from Tyler. Hopefully you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And as always, begin the duel, win the day.